Tinfoil Tidbits 13. There's no subtitle. We're just going to tinfoil till we're done. That's actually a pretty good subtitle. Tinfoil till we're done. What is food and what is nutrition? Have you ever seen What the Bleep Do We Know? What the Bleep changed the game when that dropped in 2002, 2003. I bought the Down the Rabbit Hole edition, the extended edition. So this part about What the Bleep, what it's here for is because in the movie, one of the guys asks, what is nutrition? Or he says, why do we need to eat food? Okay, we need nutrition. What is nutrition? Is there a better way to deliver nutrition through the body? And then I read Human Body 2.0 by Ray Kurzweil, and he was pointing out that eating a piece of cake is such a bad thing to do based on what your body has to do to process it. What if we could extract and that we go to the bathroom, most of the food we eat just goes through, gets processes, and then ends up in the toilet. So that's a lot of waste. Can we remove the waste and have efficient methods of delivering nutrition? I thought that was pretty interesting. And supplementation and other things have come out along the way. It was great. But I had an issue when they tried telling us there were more stars than grains of sand as a kid, and still do. But looking at sand under a microscope, it's a sight to see. I find myself losing hours to microscope footage on YouTube of mitochondria, platelets, sperm, amoebas, protozoas, plankton, and other microorganisms. The biggest creature on Earth, the blue whale, eats microorganisms and nothing else. We're doing something wrong. The mightiest land creature, the elephant, got that strong without eating other animals. So just sit back and think about it. The two biggest creatures, the blue whale of the ocean and the elephant of the land, do not, well, I guess if you consider microorganisms animals, but they're microorganisms. But the two of them got so big and strong without eating other animals. I'm not a vegan. I eat meat. But this is just like one of those, like, whoa, really? It's such a mind thing that it's tinfoil. So that's a tinfoil tidbit. All right, so this is Flat Awaken's Pandora's Box events for May 2018. He mentioned space, Mars, YouTube celebrities claiming they're flat Earth, Neil Tyson's sex scandal, gun rights, carbon tax. Yeah, I agree. Social engineering. I'm thoroughly against unannounced social engineering. When they run social engineering programs on society and they don't mention it. But what infuriates me more is how unaware people are of just the simple concept of social engineering and that it happens. But what's even more maddening is when people are aware of it and drink the Kool-Aid and go along with it and push it. Social engineering, the Warcraft admin concept. So did you ever see the South Park episode where the people who run Warcraft had to modify the game because people were cheating and finding cheat codes and ways around the system? And it's not so much talking about stopping the cheating, but that there is a group of people overseeing the way we're living in our society, and they're outside of it. And then they can interject things. That's kind of like we're in the dome and there's some controllers of us, or a variant, whatever you want to call it if you're not into FE. Just that we may be being observed. Who gave the order to have all of this weird stuff on TV? You hear complaints about TV, but where does the money come from to create the content? And how could all of the channels on cable possibly be profitable? There's so many channels out there. How could they all be making money? There's not enough eyes to watch all those channels. And then if you find out that they're not profitable, then you're like, well, how come we don't have educational stations, like not boring ones, but actually good ones that help you learn? There's not a single channel on TV that has you walk away being improved. Fibonacci and fractals. If it's all real, reality isn't real. You ever look at the Fibonacci's and the fractals and hear the stories about all that? It's crazy. We're in a video game. California fires, Bush death, France yellow jacket revolution, yellow vests. So I guess these were three things that happened, I don't know, maybe it was November or December. That's how long I've been away from YouTube. But yeah, don't forget about those California fires and all the theories that went along with those fires. The H.W. Bush death on the day that there was supposed to be some kind of a hearing, and the France yellow vest revolution, which is still going on, as well as one in Serbia and Venezuela. QMap.pub. Do you get your Q on or what? And if not, why not? It's the first thing you check when you wake up in the morning, qposts.online or qmap.pub. It's the first thing I do to wake up. I got to get my Q on. expanding Earth. Orbital platform. I heard this term. I've seen this term used not as the lunar orbital platform, but as if there's some kind of a platform in the sky. Now, that platform could be the dome that reflects all of the communications transmissions we believe come from satellites. You know, we see the air balloons, they all kind of pop at 130,000 feet. Obviously, there's a reason for that. But when you see all those radar dishes pointed up, the radar arrays, and you wonder, and then you hear about the ionosphere, and that at nighttime, AM radio could travel farther, but during the daytime, the ionosphere bounces it back down. And so could it be the retractable dome? like the football stadiums? Maybe the sky has a retractable dome. And maybe that's why sometimes the projector operator for the sky is late. You ever notice sometimes the sky is blue at nighttime? It's not black with stars. Sometimes there's no stars and you still see clouds, and there's just no stars. And the sky is blue at 10 o'clock at night. I blame the guy being late, the projector operator. He's late. So is there an orbital platform? Anytime I hear orbital platform, I'm like, orbital platform? What if you fly up high enough, is there just like an orbital platform up there? So again, this is Tinfoil Tidbits, where we theorize on things we hear, things we don't know about. Oh, you know about the lunar orbital platform? It's the new space station, you little science space guy, NASA guy. So yeah, what's the orbital platform? Not the lunar orbital platform that's not even in space yet, but this orbital platform that they talk about. Is there a platform that orbits our planet? And I saw this term, the Deep Space Gateway. The Lunar Orbital Platform Gateway is a proposal for a lunar orbit space station intended to serve as an all-in-one solar-powered communications hub, science laboratory, short-term habitation module, and holding area for rovers and other robots. But make no mistake, I'm talking about the orbital platform, not the lunar orbital platform. For real? GTFOH! The FCC approved SpaceX's plan to launch more than 7,000 internet beaming satellites. The company now has permission to launch its full 12,000 satellite constellation. Satellite constellation. So 7,000 to 12,000. There's an article here. I'm not going to even bother reading it, but the FCC is, why not? The FCC has approved SpaceX's request to launch a constellation of 7,500 satellites into orbit, a major regulatory hurdle the company needed to clear in its plans to provide internet coverage from space. The approval is in addition to one that SpaceX received from... Dude, how many satellites do they launch at once? How many can they fit on their rocket? They want to put 12,000 in space. If each launch, they put out 10 satellites, that would be 1,200 launches. If they had 100 satellites per launch, that would be 120 launches. How is this possible? I don't know. I mean, hey. And it's expected to cost $10 billion to develop and have the constellation operational by the mid-2020. So what if all these stars in the sky are the satellites? And if you ever go back and read my book, Simulation Theory, there's a chapter of dreams, and I talk about this dream where I'm time traveling. And we time travel back in time. And the way our time machine worked was on a cell phone, and it worked with satellites. So then once we went back in time, I asked my buddy who had the cell phone time machine, and I said, hey, dude, now that we're back in time, how are we going to get back to the future if satellites don't exist yet? And he said, the satellites have always been there. And now, maybe all those stars in the sky, which seem to orbit on some kind of a lunar, not a lunar, but some kind of an orbital platform in the sky. Maybe that's where maybe all the stars are satellites. Just saying, man. How are they going to launch 12,000? Skin repair spray. So I recently saw The Host. I do not recommend it. I only watched it because Andrew Nicole directed it, and he did other films like In Time, Gattaca, and other great ones. But in The Host, in Jupiter Ascending, and Virtuosity, there's a skin repair spray. So now, seeing it in The Host and Jupiter Ascending, which I think they both came out the same year, if you have like a gash, a wound, you spray this spray on, and it somehow heals the wound like instantly. And in Virtuosity, it was a little different. If the Russell Crowe character, he got his arm cut off, and if he put his severed limb in water like a fish tank, then it would somehow, like, the stem cells or something would interact with the water and then rebuild his arm. But this idea of skin repair spray, I've seen it many times, more than just these films. So where is it? Where's the skin repair spray? The Tartary Empire. And this kind of goes in with the mud floods. I'm still waiting on a good documentary on it, something that didn't have to be an hour long. Can I get something, a 5-minute primer? If anybody knows a good one, drop it in the comments below. I would just like something quick and fast. I don't need to spend hours on the Tartary Empire. Nanobot body remote control. So I had this dream. This might not even be a good tinfoil tidbit. Nanotech video game idea. A mini ship goes into the body and each microbe is identified and you shoot the bad ones. So there's just this dream where you send your little thing into your body, and then with your joystick, you could kill all the bad microbes and keep the good ones. BuzzFeed, Pocahontas, abortions, he and she, the Virginia governor. Well, these should have been in a Pandora's Box episode, but BuzzFeed allowed us to finally say definitively, authoritatively, once and for all, without a doubt, no shadows of doubts, that the news is in fact fake news, fake news, fake news, fake news. You are fake news. And man, on my drive home, before I got home, when the BuzzFeed article came back, I'm getting texted by all kinds of D's saying, "We got you now, we got you now." And but before I even saw the article, I said, "Nah, man, you're reading fake news." "Oh, is everything fake news? Is everything fake news that's against Trump? Is it all fake news?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no, it absolutely is fake news. It is absolutely fake news." "Oh, but you haven't even read the article yet." No, it's fake news, bro. How do you know it's fake news? Well, because the Russian collusion thing's fake news, but that's not why. I quickly glanced at my phone and I looked up like Drudge Report, and it had the BuzzFeed article front dead center in big, and I knew that if it's a real story, the home team doesn't cover it. And if it's fake news, Fox News and Drudge will cover it. If it's fake news about Trump, they'll cover it to let you know that, yeah, this is fake news. So before our little snippy snappy concluded, the BuzzFeed thing that Mueller came out and said it's fake news came out, and I got the declare victory. And they suddenly stopped texting me. I didn't receive any more texts. They scatter away. But it was glorious. It was glorious to finally say, "You're fake news! You're fake news!" And they had to endure it. The funny thing is, because a lot of them go along with status quo, my conspiracy mind was like, wait a minute. So just because Mueller says it's not true, suddenly the whole thing is irrelevant and everything got corrected instantaneously. So that was kind of strange. Like, if it happened to me, I would have questioned that, but they don't question authority. They don't question the official narrative, because the official narrative is always in their favor. Pocahontas, not only did her blood test turn out the way it did, but somebody got a hold of her law entry, and she's got American Indian on it. Abortions, obviously, New York celebrated that they're going to let live babies be killed, and they thought it was great. That's pretty disgusting. I mean, that's biblical. That's sick. Like, they can't even, we don't even have to have the debate anymore about when does life begin. They're killing living babies. Sickos. And then California, I think they can't say he and she in congressional hearings or something now. That's pretty crazy. People are getting banned on YouTube for talking about QAnon or talking about Sandy Hook or talking about conspiracy theories, but these people are allowed to convince children that males and females, boys and girls don't exist. That's insane. And if you remember that social engineering slide I had earlier, if you don't realize this was a social engineering trick just to see how far they could go, how much lunacy can they push on people, there you got it. And the Virginia governor, the D's project all of the evil they do onto their opponents. They're the racists. So this should have been a Pandora's Box episode, but it's a tinfoil tidbit episode. These things changed the game. All of these changed the game. I think the abortion thing woke up the rest of the silent majority that wasn't already awoken during the Kavanaugh hearing. because the Kavanaugh hearing was pretty sick. That was a Pandora's box for a lot of people. That snapped a lot of people out of denial of what was going on with the fake news, and that these they'll do anything. They'll do anything. They'll lie to your face. And it was like the first big lie, the Kavanaugh thing, with Blase Ford. That was the first big lie that didn't work, that actually got rejected. Actually, it didn't even get rejected. You were forced to believe the stories until the vote happened. Crazy, man. That was some wild. There's a lot of Pandoras going on right now. Thank you, Trump. And on the Virginia thing, I always knew D's to have a fetish with the blackface thing. I never even knew what it meant or what it was. But all the D's I knew, they were always excited about it. All right, this is the final tidbit. The false flags that were presented to end the shutdown. This came from an article from The Atlantic. I don't know if The Atlantic is considered mainstream, but it printed some pretty bizarre stuff to be in something seemingly mainstream. I shortened the article and just used the exciting parts. Look how much there are. So they said, for a deal to shake loose in this environment, it may require a failure of government so dramatic, so shocking, as to galvanize public outrage and force the two parties back to the negotiating table. In these interviews, I heard an array of macabre hypotheticals, from airplane crashes to food safety scares, TSA strikes to terrorist incidents. But the one theme that ran through every conversation was a sense that the current political dynamics won't change until voters get a lot angrier. This is all pageantry. It's going to take a big national event to move things. I mean, we're at a standstill. I mean, doesn't this sound like the Project for a New American Century? I wonder if all these people were neoconservatives saying this kind of crazy stuff. It may take until when federal funding dries up for food stamps, a crisis that would be hard for Washington to ignore. And watch this one. Not only are there going to be a lot of hungry families, he said, but there are going to be a lot of Walmarts and Safeways and Krogers that are missing revenue. So I guess that's mainstream news now. Others warned of potential flashpoints in America's airports, where TSA agents and air traffic controllers have already been working without pay for weeks. According to the Washington Post reporter Robert Costa, some Republican lawmakers close to the White House have privately concluded that the shutdown won't end until TSA employees stay home and Americans get furious about their flights. So it looks like that was the one they selected, because wasn't it a strike at the airports, supposedly, LaGuardia? On a similar, if darker note, it might take a stressed out air traffic controller causing a plane crash to bring an end to the shutdown, and several aides worried that some kind of terrorist incident would end up serving as the catalyst to get the government up and running again. Sickos. Imagine the shutdown ending if the reported lapse in inspections from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration prompted a widespread food safety scare. We saw what happened with the romaine lettuce a few weeks ago. Was that a false flag? You give that same kind of scare to a ranch in California, and all of a sudden, not only do everyone's beef prices go up, but there's a mass panic. So that's from the article, Waiting for a Shutdown to End in Disaster, from The Atlantic. And that will conclude this episode, Tinfoil Tidbits 13, and I will see you next time.